Shouldn't be able to hear me now.
I can hear you.
Oh, maybe you and I can hear each other now, but hopefully no one will be able to hear us. And oh my gosh, I spent 5 to 6 hours today. And a lot of it was trying to figure out how to make the templates work and how to do things. And of course, whatever it is, it's never as easy as it appears to be.
Never.
So, oh my God. So I've only, and I'll explain, so you can watch this too, because once I do the intro, I'm going to explain what we're doing in the beta. And there's one person in there. Okay. Okay. I have to change that emblem. I have hair now. I have long hair now. Oh, this has been a little bit frustrating. Okay, so we are now. Hello, everybody. My name is Howard Kline. This is a beta test, and if you are watching this on YouTube, which is where it should be, please give me your comments and your thoughts. Peter Morris is joining me. This is going to be what we're calling, at least at the moment, CRE News Live. This is going to be a live stream. So when you write comments, I can put the comments on the screen. And let me tell you a little bit about what we're doing today and what the beta is. So we're testing out this new platform. Okay. Okay, so Siri is talking to me. I have to learn to turn off Siri. So we're going through some things that I've set up, and this is going to be improved going forward in the future. Douglas, hello, no audio. My audio is going out. So, Peter, you can hear me.
I can hear
Douglas,
you.
Douglas, it might actually be your audio or not. Don't know. But hopefully, and if I'm talking to you, hold on a second, Douglas. Audio seems to be going. Oh, John Gallagher. John says that. Okay, it's on your end. That's okay. This is part of doing something live. Okay. So this is what we're going to do. The plan is every 2 weeks, Peter and I will be doing a live stream where we're going to be presenting 4 or 5, maybe even 6 recently newsworthy topics. It could be something anywhere within the last 3 weeks. Okay. Deborah, thanks a lot. If you've joined in, let me know. I'm getting distracted. So I need your feedback. So what this is going to be, it's going to be, if any of you are familiar with Pardon the Interruption, we don't have it today. I guess it would be on this side. I don't know. It's on one of the sides, where we will have various topics that we will go down, and they will be timed. We're going to be doing some automatic timing things today on certain topics, while the topics hopefully will be of interest. Some of the feedback I'd like to have is the topics, the format, trouble that you're having getting on. things like that. A lot of this will be automated so that I'll need to put time in. So this is our first one that we've done, and I spent about 6 hours today. And frankly, it's not going to be the way it is today, but it will hopefully be better in 2 weeks. This will also include, Deborah Hazel signed in. This will also include, hopefully, pre-recorded video interviews that I will have with many other people that I've done in the past and some new people. If you would like to join in at some point in time, I'll be able to have you join in. I'm hoping that it'll be very polished, but in order to do polish, there is a bunch that I have to learn and get done correctly. And I have to go through some tripping and falling and bruising of myself in order to do this. I think, I'm trying to think, we have a show on the 22nd. I already have 2 live guests, and I'll be having some other people on. And then as we go along. So now I'm going to move on, and I'm going to move to Peter. And Peter, would you introduce yourself?
Certainly, Howard. Glad to be with you once again. I'm Peter Morris. I'm the founder, CEO of the Greenstead Consulting Group. We are an international commercial real estate advisory firm. We've had clients all around the planet. I've had the great pleasure of working throughout North America, and as well as Asia, South America, and the Middle East. And for some reason, my screen is, the camera is pixelated, but that's not me. I don't normally walk around with a bar across my forehead. But that is what we do. And we're also a commercial real estate training firm as well. So really pleased to be with you, Howard, and just a little bit more of our background. Like Howard, I've been in the business for a little while now, about 40 years. So hopefully I can bring some thoughts that will be enlightening.
And oh, you look so much younger than me. Let me just go back for a second. If you haven't already subscribed to my YouTube channel, please do so. In the button below, you'll see subscribe and then the bell. Click on that and we can go from there. Also, any comments either on what we're discussing or the presentation, let me know. And now we're going to move on. We're going to be talking about, and this is automatic, so you can see at the top, I've got a timer. I've got 5 minutes set for the timer to talk about all of the Chapter 11 filings that are going on. There was one that just, Peter, there was Ruby Tuesdays.
Yes.
Yeah, they just filed, what, yesterday?
Yeah, I believe it was yesterday.
And they're closing down all of their store locations.
Yeah, this is going to be a liquidation, not Chapter 11.
Yeah. Are there any others? What's going on in Canada in terms of bankruptcies? Do you know?
Yeah, and I forgot to mention that I am domiciled in Canada, so we're going to be presenting information from both the United States and Canada. Bankruptcies are up in Canada. Some of them are tied to the U.S. bankruptcies. For an example, Tailored Brands out of the United States not only has Mark's Work, or not Mark's Work Warehouse, but Men's Warehouse, but also Moore's, the clothing operator brand in Canada. Also Tip Top Tailors, which has been around for decades as a men's clothier, has also filed. So we have no specialty men's chains, menswear chains in Canada right now. They've all gone by the wayside. We're seeing a dramatic increase in bankruptcies and also just general vacancy. The CEO of the Retail Council of Canada predicts that by the end of Q1 2021, 20% of the retailers that we know and love today will no longer be in existence. That will be either due to bankruptcy, or they will be bought out and rebranded, or something else, a merger of some description. So definitely we are seeing the effects of COVID up and down the scale here in Canada, as well as what we're seeing in the United States. Your Chiron at the bottom there says that the filings for Chapter 11 have increased over 78%. There were 747 new filings. This is just huge, and it's not going to slow down anytime soon, I don't think.
No, as a matter of fact, as I expand my law practice, doing more rent relief negotiations and representing special servicers and lenders, I am associating with a bankruptcy firm that I've been having conversations with that the bankruptcies are going to be it's going to be a tsunami of bankruptcies over the next few months. We're into October. Probably we're going to start seeing them come in over November, the rest of this month, November, December. And my expectations is a lot of the retailers are going to try to get through December as they did in the Great Recession. Get through December, sell as much as possible, and then you're going to have this issue. I can remember in the Great Recession, I started getting telephone calls with regard to retail evictions in the last quarter of the year, and the sense that I had walking around the stores is they were just holding on. There are going to be some particularly retailers, but I think we're going to see it everywhere. Peter and I, when I'm looking at the wrong camera. I got two cameras going. Peter and I, when I started, browsing various articles and information, trying to decide what we're going to do, and we have 1 minute left. One of the things is all I had was all of this new stuff about failures and bankruptcies, and I said, is there something lighter that we can talk about? And I don't know if we found anything, but we are going to be talking about a few other things today, lease things that are going on, et cetera.
Yeah, and just to set the stage, although we're talking retailers, we're seeing across the board bankruptcies. We saw a filing where a major landlord in the U.S. just turned back a number of enclosed shopping centers to the lender. They just simply walked away. So it's going to be affecting landlords and occupants in all the asset classes. We're seeing rents in San Francisco, for an example, in free fall. So all kinds of things are happening.
That's the other topic. We got 14 seconds. We're going to do this PTI style. So I'm going to cut you off. Okay. All right. 6 seconds. Sorry. I'm going to have to get used to doing this way. Okay. So now we're moving on. So here we have something similar. So I've got Peter D. Morris on here. Again, if there's something going wrong, give us your comments and give us some feedback. So the topic that we're going to be talking about here is giving space back. I saw an article someone posted on Twitter. And it was like, if you see these 14 things, you should be concerned. And in this one really caught my attention. Inability to give back space. Make sure you have the right to give back space in the first 5 years of a lease. Now, I got to tell you, now granted, we may be in a different world right now, but I don't know. I mean, if the landlord wants the tenant to give space back wants to allow the tenant to give the space back within the first 5 years, do a 3-year lease.
Yeah, I don't know any lenders. My son's a lender, right? And I talked to him about this, and he said, "Well, that's not going to go very far with us," and because you only have a 2 or a 3-year term. You don't have a 5-year term. But what we're seeing, again, I'm going to reference Canada. What we're seeing is rather than giving space back, which is very difficult, what we are, by the way, John, I agree with you. The moderator could have used that, not just last night, the previous debate as well. But here's the thing. We're seeing deals in short terms, like a 2-year deal and multiple 2-year options thereafter. That doesn't help on the financing either, but that's the trend that we're seeing. And from a real estate agent's perspective, they're just going for a straight fee. My fee for doing this transaction is X. It's no longer tied as a percentage of the deal, which I think is probably the better way to go. And so, As a landlord, I would never agree to a tenant giving me the space back after 5 years because it is all to their benefit. I'd have to put in a whole bunch of conditions saying what would have to occur for that to happen.
I've seen escape clauses, but those are really powerful tenants.
Yes.
That would have an escape clause if there's another tenant in the center of the mall that's not open, a certain percentage of the tenancies filled. I mean, those are tenants who have power
Yeah.
and can
What I
demand
found
stuff like
interesting.
that.
Yeah, what I found interesting about this particular article is who wrote it. It's a lawyer with BLG, a law firm. If they're able to get these things through, I have to go back to school and learn from this person because I don't see that that's going to happen that easily.
No, no, I don't see that. I agree with you. What we're going to see is shorter leases. That
Yep.
landlords are going to be accepting shorter leases. Audience, tell me what your thoughts are on this and what you're seeing, and I'll put you on the screen and we'll do some of that. Now,
There's
Casey,
another thing that goes
you're
with.
laughing. Are you seeing any of these things? Escape clauses for mom and pop or just your normal tenancies that don't have a major power?
Even with escape clauses or short-term tenancies, the group that's going to die in all of this is going to be the incentives. You're not going to see free rent. You're not going to see a tenant improvement allowance. You're not going to look at any of those things anymore because you just can't amortize it over a long enough period of time. And you're going to see a lot more use of existing space, existing fixtures and improvements. I don't think that's a good thing necessarily either. Office, that's not a problem. Um, Retail, that's a problem. Restaurants, back of house, really expensive. That could be okay. Front of house, you know, I have a Thai restaurant that I like going to. It was formerly a Greek restaurant. It looks like a Greek restaurant. It doesn't look like a Thai restaurant. So we're going to
It's
see more
got
of those
grape
kinds of
leaves
things.
all over the place.
Oh yeah, it's Greek gods holding up urns. That just doesn't fit. So I think we're going to see a whole bunch of other things. And Deborah made a point about the Christmas selling season and bankruptcies that I just want to quickly touch on. There's not going to be a Black Friday. There's not going to be all of the kinds of things that we saw before. So
No, I agree with you. When we get to the other thing, again, this is a time. It doesn't seem like this is automatically switching.
well, it's
Oh,
going to be. It's going to be.
it did. That horn is like, pardon the interruption. So, yeah, I just want to mention quickly, Peter and we actually had rescheduled it, but I read that about 50% of the available space on the market, and I'm not sure it's limited to retail, office, or probably not industrial, but about 50% of the space is sublease space. And when I say sublease, it's sublease or assignment, but basically it's not original with the landlord, at least. So Peter and I are going to be doing a webinar on sublease space and the things that you have to pay attention to. Originally, we had scheduled it for next week, but we're going to probably do it in about 3 weeks. So here's one of the things that I'm looking at is, okay, what's the ticker? See, we had a little problem with some of the information. Landlords are providing more concessions. Yeah, let's talk a little bit about concessions. Peter.
Well, when it comes to office, and we just talked about concessions with shorter terms, but to get a longer term, they're providing a lot more concessions. So what's happening is that the net in pocket to the landlord is decreasing, the net effective rent, as compared to the face rate. And so we're going to see lenders become more attuned to net effective rents. They're not just going to look at the face rates anymore. And I have a feeling also that the cost of doing these deals is going to increase to a point where it will decimate the actual in-pocket net effective rents, unless we do some of these other things like short-term deals and we just get rid of all those concessions. But in order to attract these tenants right now, and here's the other part of the story. As the bankruptcy goes up and we have a smaller prospect pool to lease to, you're going to see people come out and be very heavy on their concessions. Again, San Francisco, rents have gone down in residential, but their concessions have gone up. 3 months of free rent on residential, throwing in TVs, free parking, all these other things. All the things we saw in the Great Recession are going to come back again, but I think they're going to come back even bigger.
Yep. Well, let me ask you this question. So if you're going to, in order to give the landlord, in order to give some flexibility, the landlord is going to sign a 3-year lease so that at the end of 3 years, they can start increasing the rents, because the reasonable anticipation is that all of this mess with COVID will be pretty much done within 3 years, and then we'll get back to normal. I don't know if that's going to happen right away. I think it's going to be a gradual increase. But if you only have a 3-year lease, how much are you going to be able to give in rent concessions? And the problem with doing a 3-year lease is if you have a lot of tenant improvements, it ain't going to happen. And that was the part of my discussion having to do with sublease space. Because I think a lot of people are going to grab onto a lot of this restaurant space, restaurant equipment. I can remember over the last 3 or 4 recessions and evicting tenants and negotiating on behalf of the landlords and trying to get the tenants to leave their restaurant equipment there. The restaurant equipment was worth not even 10 cents on the dollar. I mean, it was just terrible. First of all, we tried not to evict anybody because why evict someone in a shopping center if you don't have a replacement tenant? But a lot of the negotiation was, well, we'll forgive a lot of what you owe if you leave your tenant improvements, and we'll get a nail, if it's a nail salon, leave your chairs, leave everything, we'll get someone else in. If it's a restaurant, leave everything in if it had any value. And those are some of the problems that we had. Now I'm switching to question and answer. Okay, so now which camera? Oh, I'm this camera. I need one of those lights to show me which camera, or just stick with one camera. All right, now we're going to question and answer. So I've got some questions for the audience. Number one, do you like the format where we time and automate the switching of scenes and limiting it to 5 minutes? I'm trying to get things moving. In some cases, maybe we'll do 10 minutes. In some cases, maybe we'll do 6 minutes. Depends upon the topic. So if in the comments, whoops, it says new comments. Okay. I didn't know I was doing it. So everybody here in the comment section is saying hello to each other. Format is fun and unique to CRE. Great. There's a lot of things that I have to clean up here. What are the topics? Type in the comment section what topics you want us to talk about. Now, Peter and I have a lot of experience with leases. Set time either for 5 or 10 is a great idea. Okay, John, we'll do that. Deborah likes 10 better. Yeah, I think it depends upon the topic. Yes, Casey, we could go on forever, and that's the problem. I'm trying to, Alan Buchanan, friend of mine, that we've made, he's always kind of complained he doesn't like watching my shows because my shows are like an hour or longer, and he just doesn't have the time, and I go into too much depth. And we're saving that for the webinars. Yeah. Where we can do a deep dive. This format is going to be a little bit lighter. Might even do some games and stuff. So, and again, I want to remind everybody, I'm switching here. Switch the camera. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. For those of you, I know Casey's got the let's see. Casey's got the Twitter. Casey, what is that called? The Twitter thing that you're doing? Okay. All right. All right. There's a Twitter talk show where everybody tweets. Twitter? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I have you confused with Melissa. Yeah. Sorry. In any event, there are. Okay. Yeah. Sorry. CRE chat. Thank you. And you're smiling. You should make fun of me. Let me go back to this scene. So, CRE chat, and it's very unique the way that that's done. I really like that, and we're all trying to do something new. So if you're using social media and doing meetings and things like that, or if you'd like to try out some of the stuff that I'm doing, certainly get a hold of me. And as I go through and make more and more mistakes and screw things up on this format and try new things, I'll give you the benefit of what I'm doing and the mistakes that I've made so that you don't do that yourself. So, yeah, I think, Casey, let's talk about topics. Do you prefer industrial? Do you prefer office, etc.? Because Peter and I have a lot of experience in retail.
Yeah. Do you want to focus on IPP properties or development properties? What do you think about presenting a perspective across North America, sans Mexico? So Canada and the U.S., I would be interested to find out how you feel about that. I'm equally versed in both, having lived in the U.S. and worked in the U.S., and I currently work with clients in the U.S. as well, but also can provide kind of a snapshot of what's happening north of the 49th.
Okay, so this is what I'd like you all to do, and you don't have to do it now. You're all connected to me one way or the other. Let me know what topics you like and you would like us to cover. It's really, I would say, generally simple for Peter and I to talk about lease provisions, and rent concessions, or I'm trying to set up a webinar on which camera should I be looking at?
The one where you're pointing.
Okay. A webinar on guarantees. And that webinar is going to be, because the guarantees vary from jurisdiction to jurisdiction. So I'll be having someone from New York. I'm hoping to have someone from Texas, and our friend, the attorney who was on one of my webinars, from Canada.
Yep, from Toronto.
Because there are all kinds of things that can be done with guarantees. And I'm not talking about letters of credit, et cetera. I'm just talking about the guarantee language and what the jurisdiction allows for in terms of waivers of rights that people have in guarantees in various jurisdictions anyhow. And these are almost templated forms. So let me see some new comments. Depends on what's newsy. Yeah, I would imagine that about half of what we'll be doing, probably the first half hour, will be on news things. And any suggestions you have in terms of how I can get a lot of interaction with everybody. Now, keep in mind, we didn't market this, right, today's show, because I wanted to trip and fall and bruise myself on the format and style and learn this stuff. But I think otherwise it works pretty well. And one of the things I might mention, right now I'm limiting it only to YouTube, because I'd like to increase my subscription on YouTube. There's a benefit to having over 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. You can link to outside websites, etc. And also, I'm not using Twitter as much. Speaking of Casey, and I could bring people on, by the way. Siri keeps on thinking that when I say Casey, I'm talking to Siri. I'm not using Twitter as much as I used to use. And what are your thoughts on Twitter. I kind of get the sense that there's this, we're all using the term bubble, but it's among those in commercial real estate using Twitter, it seems like there's this bubble. What are your thoughts, Casey, on about Twitter and whether or not it's a bubble? I'm getting more back into LinkedIn as a marketing tool, which includes cold calling from my links in LinkedIn. So, Casey, if you could type in there, or maybe we could talk about that. Aren't you going to be on my show on the 22nd? Well, we'll find out. I'm getting confused. That's what happens when you're an octogenarian like I am. Did I use the term correctly?
Well, I just say
I
I'm
lost
old.
you, Peter. I lost your sound.
I'm here.
Oh, okay. No. I haven't really been on too much lately. I've always needed to utilize LinkedIn more. That's a good point. We ought to do a show. I've been thinking about getting a LinkedIn expert to do a webinar on real estate people. Maybe, Casey, you should be on the webinar on how to best use LinkedIn for real estate people. I know that I'm using it as an attorney, not so much as a real estate person, but I think that there are things that you can do, and I think it's a grossly underutilized tool. So, Casey, when you have a chance, why don't you get back to me, and let's talk about you participating in a webinar and talking about that. Does anybody have anything else to say? We don't have to stay on forever. Peter?
I think the format that we set up was for these live, we're going to try and keep it to about 30 minutes total with, if we're doing 5-minute segments, that's a lot of topics to cover. So, and
Yeah.
to Alan's point, you don't want to be on for an hour. So.
No, well, not on this case. So I'd like to thank everybody who've joined. You can connect to me if you've got any thoughts on the things that we can do. The next show will be on the 22nd of October. My slate is clear now. I settled 3 cases.
Awesome.
Two lease renegotiations where there was rent relief, one on behalf of the landlord, one on behalf of the tenant, and then a lawsuit that I've been representing, a collection case where we collected 100% of the amount that was in dispute. So I'm
Awesome.
pretty happy about that. So if anybody would like training, Peter's going to be getting out his new course shortly. And so stay in touch with us. He's really good. And of course, if anybody needs any advice, legal advice on, if here's part of the problem. I see the comments and I get distracted.
Squirrel. Squirrel.
Yeah.
So.
And I've got to turn off Siri on my computer. Because what happens is if it thinks that I'm talking to Siri, so if I say, then what happens is it starts talking and it blocks out your sound. Also, if any of you would like to be on, yes, Douglas, you resemble that remark. So if anybody would like to be on and to be interviewed either on this show or participate on the webinars, let me know. The difference between this show and the webinars, just to repeat myself, is that this show is going to be bits and pieces and more newsy, and where the other is going to be on a main topic, whether it be certain provisions in a lease or something else. So in any event, thank you very much, everyone. Casey, great seeing you, and hopefully we'll see you on the 22nd, and hopefully this will be a lot more polished by then. And if you have any further comments, let me know. Peter, thank you very much.
Howard, always a pleasure. Thank you.
All right. I'll speak to you later. Bye, everybody.
Bye bye.